lovely people. Please let me know that you can hear my voice and hear the music. Let me know in the comments if you can hear my voice and the music. Or if you can hear nothing at all, tell me that as well. Hear both, good, that's a good sign. Just going to spend a couple of minutes faffling around on this patch I've been developing. I'm quite enjoying. And then we'll get down to business. I got this awesome thing going on, right? I just don't really know whether it's particularly in tune. A bit like an ice cream van that's been sort of sucked into a space portal. Not quite there, is it? Finds moments in there, just little moments that just go ooh, and then it goes, oh, I'm not sure, then it kind of falls out the back, and then it can, oh, there's another moment. Well, at least, you know, that's kind of my feeling on it. Anyway, I think time enough to let people gather. I'm going to turn that down to off, and then we can kick it off, yeah? Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to Molten Music Technology. This is our live stream. How exciting. We do this at least once a month. At least once a month, usually after the Molten Music Monthly video roundup news thing that I do, send that out, and then the following Sunday we have a live stream, which is what this is. Sorry about the time thing. I completely hadn't cottoned on to the fact that it was British summertime. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. We had snow today, so it's not really feeling British summertime particularly. But so I'm sorry about the time thing. I mean, if you're outside the UK, then it's just 8 o'clock GMT, as it always is. But for us Brits, it's suddenly an hour later. It's already 9 o'clock, and it feels like bedtime because it's a Sunday night, you know. So welcome. You are very, very welcome here for old timers, for regulars, and for newbies. You're all very, very welcome. It's good to have you here. The plan for the evening is that I generally run on getting slowly drunk. Sometimes I play some music. Usually I talk a lot. Sometimes I answer questions. Sometimes we have a bit of abuse going on, but nothing unfriendly. And that's kind of it. You're welcome to ask questions in the comments. You're welcome to talk amongst yourselves, which is often what happens, and I'm actually superfluous to requirements largely. But we're here and we gather and we talk about synthesizers and hardware and software and music making and modular and stuff. I do have a little unboxing thing to do, which I've got down here, so we can do that at some point when the conversation runs a bit awry, so that's fun. Otherwise, I just should say that I'm using a different camera today. I thought I would experiment a little bit because my good trusty DSLR Canon camera is a little bit on its last legs, and actually for live streaming doesn't work as well as this crappy old camcorder that I've got set up now. The only trouble I have with the camcorder is that it's harder to get the settings right for a good image, to get the lighting and all that kind of rigmarole. Getting that sorted out is quite troublesome. So it may look slightly different, but hopefully the quality of the video is actually an improvement. It certainly ended up, once I got it right, it's a much easier configuration for me, which is great. So there we go. So if it looks slightly different, then that's why. Looking at the preview, the lights, I don't know, it seems a little dark, but I'll go with it. So we'll go with it and see where we get to. So let me say hello to a few people who have popped up in the chat, and then we'll see where the evening takes us. I think. I can't think what I was going to talk about. Anyway, so let me have a look, see what's going on. So, hello, who have we got in the house? Oh, crikey, a lot of people already. This is the thing, you talk amongst yourselves, which is fun. I like that. But I get lost sometimes. Sometimes it makes me feel more lonely. So, hello, Monkey. It's good to see you, Derek. McGoldfarp. Yes. Andrew, what, you here? What, at this time? We must have got this right for you. That's amazing. Derek, hi Glenn, nice to see you. Bang Bang Systems, yes, it's good to be here. Jacob, other people, Don, Ian, nice, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. You've missed the last few, Stephen. Well, welcome to this one. I'm sure I can come up with some personal insults directed just at you for the pleasure of being here. This week the Aura Nectar will be released. I have no clue what that is, but that sounds exciting. You've got yours on pre-order. Oh, well, good gracious. Good gracious. Hair's very tidy. Thank you. Well, you know, I do try. You know, despite what people think, I do try. I mean, I like it to stick up a little bit if I can. But it's, yeah, you know, it's doing all right today. Doing all right. Hello, Nigel. Hi, Foxy. Good to have you. Good to have you. Yeah, who cares about tuning? I certainly don't. I'll talk about that a little bit later if you like, because it came together because I've been running this same patch as I had, I think, from the live. I think it's similar to what I was doing in the live stream that I did, where I just did some music. As in, I haven't changed it much since then, but I've just been developing it a little bit, adding a little bit, changing a little bit, and it's still got the sort of same vibe going on. Still got my ADAC 104 doing all of its blippy business. And then I just had a bright idea about, I've got 3 melodies going on, well, like a bass line, a melody, and another melody. Why don't I shift that other melody about? So I spent half an hour trying to work out how the heck do I do that? And then stumbled upon a reasonably tuneful way of making that occur, which was very cool. Very cool. So I might look into that a bit later if we if we have the time. Yeah, it is kind of 3 tracks in one. It is 3 competing melodies doing its own thing. Arthur, hi. Yeah, fighting things off in Boston. Well done. You know, it would be a lot more interesting if it was a zombie apocalypse, you know, because then we would really have some stories to tell, yeah, about how many zombies you poked in the head that evening and how you only just about got away with it. You know, that sort of thing. Or you might have a bite on your arm that you're trying to cover up. You know, that's the kind of apocalypse we can cope with. All this getting the flu and dying business is really not. It's really not what we had in mind, I don't think. Anyway, Keating, good to see you. Don, hi. Riddle of Steel, good to see you there again. Other people, Phil, hi. Samplers, I don't know anything about samplers. Yeah, not going out. All right, the gang's all here, man. I mean, we've got people have run off already, but yeah, we're doing well. 85 people. Proper model. Riddle Still says proper modular setup now, mate. I remember when it all started. Yes, yes, back in those days. It's 3-4 years ago now. Yeah, maybe about 3 years ago. What year are we in now? 2020. Yeah, so it's about 3 years ago when I actually got my first modules together. And you know what's going to happen now? I'm going to go off on a complete tangent because I'll tell you why, right? Yesterday, Sam Look Mum No Computer Battle, he released a couple of VCAs and I was writing them up for Gear News going, these are interesting. Have I thought about these before? And then I had a look at his other stuff and go, he's actually growing quite a little bundle of things here. He's got an oscillator, a filter, VCA, envelope, LFO. He's actually got the makings of an entire little synth voice, except it's not so little. I mean, I kind of assumed that he was a 5U guy, as in Moog unit 5U guy, but actually he's not. He's doing this thing that he calls Cosmo, or also referred to apparently as metric 5U, which is something I'd never come across. The idea being is that Eurorack, it's a bit fiddly, right? But 5U Moog unit stuff is a bit sort of overwhelmingly big and expensive. And so there's this thing called metric 5U, which is somewhere in between. It takes Eurorack technology, so it's the same voltage and power as Eurorack, but just enlarges it to... Oh, I've got a ruler somewhere. Hang on, let me work this out. Enlarges it, ruler, to 20 centimeters. It's all cool, crikey. So, let's get a module. Got a spare one over here. Oh, I've got bits falling down. Oh dear. Reorganise. My floor is just like a wash of cables. So there's your standard module, right? So it's saying 20 centimeters. So it's that much taller. Can you see that? That much taller. That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. So anyway, so it's a new format, not a new format. I don't know. It's an underused format that nobody uses. But Sam has decided to go for that because in performance he can't be dealing with these tiny weeny knobs because he's a very sort of flamboyant, jumping up and down kind of punky guy, and he needs to have knobs that one can grab hold of, as do we all, I suspect. So no, it's actually worse. So he's pushing this idea of this Cosmo format, this Eurorack format, which is just over large, and is going with that. And it has bigger knobs on it that you can grab, and it has 1/4-inch jack patch sockets. I thought this was fascinating, so I bought the lot. I mean, one of the great things about it is they're not expensive. He's only selling the panels and the PCBs. So front panel PCB about 30 quid. Oh, I can do that. 30 quid, I can do that. I could do 5 of those, maybe, as in different ones. So, you know, a filter, an oscillator, the VCA, envelope, LFO, that kind of thing. So I kind of bought one of each. And I figured that, well, first of all, I figured because Sam has lost a whole load of gigs, he could probably do with the cash at the moment. And I thought, wow, that's going to be a great project because it doesn't come as a kit. It comes just as the bare PCBs and front panels, and which means I'm going to have to source all the parts myself, which is going to be interesting. And then I'll be able to put together something which is not Eurorack. It will have to live in its own thing, so it becomes like a whole other project. Now I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Deckard's Dream, mate. Right, when are you going to finish that? And stop it with these new projects. It's like, yeah, I know. The plan is to do it after the Deckard's Dream. So once I've got the Deckard's Dream out of the way and I'm enjoying that, I'll then embark on this new project of building a Cosmo Metric 5U synth. Why? I don't know, because it looks like fun. Just something a bit different. So that's really very cool. I'm looking forward to getting into that, and I think it will make an interesting range of videos. Oh yes. So that's coming up. Anyway, what are we talking about? How about some music? Oh yeah, I'll do that in a bit. When we run out of things to say, I generally get into the making of musicness. Lights on the back look good. Great. I spent a lot of time on them. Well, kind of I did. Yeah. 28 rolls later, yeah. Well, you might be fighting for toilet paper. I'm actually all right for toilet paper. I'll be probably fighting for the asparagus spears or the last jar of mayonnaise. That's probably going to be more my scene. Beer is where it's probably what we want to do next. I've got a choice of two here, which you can vote on if you want. Don't care. It's I've got Twisted Knots American IPA. There's a nice octopus on the front, and then there's this one which is a bit mysterious. I don't have any clue, but it's a really nice looking can. They call it Inhaler. So I think the idea is you open it straight up. I think that's the way that one goes down. So if you've got a preference, then do let me know, and I'll open that in a minute. Otherwise, what are we going to talk about? Am I going to finish the Deckard's Dream during COVID? Right, okay. Well, just so you know, this whole thing has not afforded me any new time whatsoever. No new time. No, less time. Less time, because all of my creative friends, people who make music like sort of for a living, are all got loads of time doing really cool creative things, and I want to be part of that. And so I'm having to, write as my day job and do more writing as my day job, and participate in the childcare and looking after the kids and being with the family so they don't go completely nuts. So I've got to do all of that, and with this extra layer of additional creativity, trying to be in stuff so I don't get left out as well, while still holding down the day job, So so although it's nice, I'm sure, for plenty of people to be having extra time, that's not my experience of this particular crisis as it goes, at least so far. And actually I'm extraordinarily thankful for that. I'm very, very thankful that I have still a job to do, and I'm able to earn money, and that's going to be important, I think, going forward. Excuse me. Don't touch your face. So so suddenly having loads of time to do Deckard's Dream, for instance, is not my reality. However, I have penciled in tomorrow to do the hardware front panel, all the controls on. I thought, well, at least I'll start it, give it a go, because I do find that if I don't do something on it often enough, I forget where I am and what's going on. So yeah, I've penciled in tomorrow to try to do the slidey bits on the front. So let's see if I can get that board underway at the very least. I think that would be good. And then that just leaves me with the little scraggly bits and pieces like the power supply and things. And then those 8 voice boards. Yeah, that's all surface mount stuff. So that's exciting. But yeah, I am very, very keen to get Deckard's Dream finished. I just have a few things, as ever, to do at the same time. But anyway, so that's that. Have I seen his Game Boy synth? Yeah, I have. Although I like the Saturn, the 8-bit Sega Mega Drive, the Mega Drive thing. I like that a lot, more than the Game Boy thing. But that's just me. I mean, the things he does when he has multiple rows and rows and rows of stuff, I think is so hard. It must drive him completely nuts. So I often enjoy more the slightly calmed down stuff, like the synth and the guitar thing. Brilliant, like that. Well, I mean, my favourite thing he ever did was the the cereal packet filter. You know, like he made a filter on the back of a cereal packet. I thought that was completely genius, you know, and that flipped my view of him as kind of crazy guy I'm not really particularly interested in, but you know, he's doing a crazy thing, that's great, into, oh wow, actually no, this guy's a bit of a genius, and that's amazing, and you know, definitely worth watching. So cool, yeah. So I'm hoping to do his Cosmo format, which will be great, and with a bit of luck, I'll you know, we'll have a chat online. We'll get a bit of an interview going about it once I'm into it a bit, that kind of thing. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool. Looking forward to that. Going to need a bigger boat? Yes. It'll have to be something else. I'll have to have. I mean, I talked about that. I've got this case up here that I'm going to use for something or other at some point. I was going to use as my mobile Eurorack kit. And I might have to repurpose that into this particular thing. Excuse me, I'm just going to blow my nose. Hope that's okay. Go. Yes, lovely. So, why the super long cables? Well, over here, well, because my cables weren't long enough, right? Cables aren't long enough to go from here to there. So I thought, well, I better buy some longer cables. So I got in touch with FOMU and ordered some of their longer cables, and they really were much longer. You know, I've got a whole twist here of cable I don't really need. But I'm also quite enjoying the fact that the cables pour out of it a bit more, because it gives me a little bit more space to play. I mean, I think when you get to a module of this size, you have to start thinking about placement more, in order to keep the cables a little bit more under control. I mean, I've had a go with some right angle cables here to see whether that helps, and it sort of does. I've used those here as well. I've just plugged 4 of these, the ADAC 104, the blips out of that, put that into a little mixer by itself, rather than using up 4 channels on my slider man thing over here. So, you know, cable management is an interesting thing. So I don't mind the length. I think that's all right. That's all right. It seems to leave me all this space rather than all the cables being across the stuff that you're trying to use. So there's some kind of logic to that. The camera hurts your eyes. In what way does it hurt your eyes? Can you be more specific? Is it too dull, too bright, too stabby? Are you able to elaborate on that a little bit? That would be helpful, Mac Mister. Anybody else got things? How many hours to build this? I have no idea. I've been working on it for about 3 years. Started with just one row, and then it's grown quite dramatically in fits and starts. It does, and it has spilled out of this. So I've probably got another row. I've got another row's worth that's knocking about. Disaster, total disaster. IPA gives you extreme heartburn. Oh, we'll have that one then. Cool. You've got your old peculiar out, have you, Ken? I know they say that about you. That doesn't look too bad. Oh, apparently it contains barley, says the allergy advice. Grapefruit aroma with notes of zesty citrus fruit. That's all right. That's quite nice, that. Hi, Jeff. Glad you could make it. Well done. Feel free to take your hat off. Keating, you love fusing blues hard rock with synthesis and a Binson Echo Rec. Good for you, mate. You go do that thing. Yeah, I like the idea of longer cables too. Oh, have I reached the bottom of the chat? Great. Camera fine. Okay, good. Camera looks out of focus on your face. What, this bit? See, on what I'm looking at on the preview here, there's a big white square that goes on your face, and that's tracking my face. So my understanding is that that's vaguely auto-focusing, I think. I don't actually know, but that's my assumption, and it is on autofocus as far as I think. If I get closer, is that better or worse? There's a focus button there. AF it says, so I don't know. I'm just going to have to leave that and go with that and see what happens. I can move closer if that's better, or further away. Closer, closer. Yeah, yeah, anyway. Wasting time. Yeah, well, I got right angle cables from FOMU as well. They do them. So there you are. Okay, good. So, what should we talk about this week? So was there anything fascinating that really jumped at me from our Molten monthly, what's it that we talk about? Let me have a look over the last few weeks and see what's happened recently that we could talk about. Oh, well, things that didn't make it into the monthly, things like the Tabor analog rhythmic car crash oscillator with the glowing orb of destruction. That was rather good. I still can't quite work out exactly what it is. Apparently, it's a collection of avalanche oscillators. Now, what's an avalanche oscillator? I don't know, I guess it's an oscillator that's falling down all the time. And there's something going on with cross-modulation and syncing them, which puts together some kind of relationship so that one is cross-modulating and feeding into another and feeding into another. And it just creates a really noisy, crazy, unruly sound, I think. But it looks amazing. I'm loving the glowy front panel eye thing, and I'm even quite liking the white panel with it's a little bit more covered up and interesting. So that's really nice. Really much enjoyed looking at that one. I also really like the Fantastic Voyage, the virtual 4-track, but it's only for Mac. Why only for Mac? That's so disappointing. So, but yeah, maybe it will come over to Windows at some point. We'll all get to go. The Performer was another find of the month, I think. This open source sequencer. Now, I think it's been around a while, but it just seemed to start cropping up. I saw it one place, went, oh yeah, that's interesting. I should bookmark that, and then completely failed to, and then it popped up again somewhere else. And so it looks like it's the sort of thing that somebody has made a while ago, and it's just starting to bubble up, and it's getting a few people perhaps have got the panel, got the front panel, and have been building it, and so it takes time for these sorts of things to start emerging, and now people are starting to use it, and it does look really quite special for a Eurorack sequencer. It looks nice. The screen's really nice. And I'm not a big fan of screens in Eurorack, I have to say, but overall, as a module, it looks pretty tasty. And it has a lot of enormous amount of sequencing potential in it. An enormous amount. Lots of guitar stuff. Something I didn't talk about was the Starling Via. I sort of put it into my list of things to talk about in the Molten Music Monthly, and then I took it out again. Partly because I don't know if I understand it. I find it sometimes some things are just difficult to talk about. So when I'm reading up about a module, I'm trying to write about it. Now I'm professional enough these days to be able to take a press release and just rework it into my own words and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. But with some things it's just too hard. I mean, funny enough, I found that with the ADAC range, the 104 and the 103 and the other ones that they released, I wasn't really sure what I was writing about. Whereas now, of course, I've got the 104 blip machine, and they should have called it a blip machine, and it's phenomenal, and I know all about it, and that's fine. But sometimes the description you get from a manufacturer is like, what on earth are they talking about? The Starling Via range is one of those. It's one of those where you're going, so yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I like the idea. I mean, they've had this going for a year or so now, where they have a hardware format that has the same connections and patch points and knobs on it, and they just change the front panel and change the firmware, and it becomes something else. And that's brilliant. I think that's a sorted idea. And the design of their front panels is also excellent. It looks amazing. It also has touch plate technology on the front for a bit of added something or other. It's just a great thing. The difficulty is, what the heck is it doing? Why is it doing it? And what is it attempting to do? That's the bit that I'm struggling with. So So yeah, writing those up was difficult, and I thought, no, I can't talk about them because I just don't have enough of a grasp as to what it's about. And I think, interestingly enough, is that it sort of it's because it comes from software, because software is a different place, and these were all originally or are available as VCV rack modules. So in the virtual VCV rack environment, you can play with these things already. Fantastic. And then they've taken those ideas and put them into hardware. I think at least that's the way around. I believe it happens. And I think because of that, because it comes from software, because it's written in a software mindset, it is, as far as Eurorack's concerned, sort of deeply and unnecessarily complicated. So they've put in layers and layers and layers of things that it's possible to do that are the sort of things that are very easily accessible in software, because you have lists and menus and things that pop up that allow you to make the right selections. Whereas in a piece of hardware, you don't have that level of access. And I think perhaps that it's going to work better in VCV rack than it'll work in hardware, simply because that sort of access is just not on your fingertips. So I don't know, I'm a bit kind of scratching my head about it. I'm not entirely sure how well that works. But not to say that it's not a great idea. It is a great idea. I just wish they were a little bit simpler. They did simpler things. Maybe that's not the point. I don't know. Anyway, that was my thoughts on those. I'll just check back, see what you're talking about, and have another swig of beer. Modular synthesis will be part of the global awakening. I like that. Yeah, Ian, you mentioned the Genesis Pro before. This is this $1 synth, wasn't it? Was that what that was? I kind of felt we'd talked about it enough when it was released. And not when it was released, when it was announced, yet again, after another 8 years of being developed. What's his face? The geezer with the hair, with the isometric hair. He talked about it, and I picked that up and thought, oh, that's really good. That looks fascinating. Let's give that a go. And that seemed to be enough, if you know what I mean. And then that's kind of, even though it's been released, it didn't kind of warrant another article written about it on Gear News, because we kind of already talked about it and it was already out there. You know, the release date was not quite so interesting as it is sometimes for other projects. So I didn't talk about it again, and so therefore it didn't come up in my list when I'm looking back over the last month as to what happened. So that's kind of why I guess that got left out. But I haven't had a look. I probably really should go and give it a go. I mean, what do you think, Ian? I mean, you are also a synth-edit guru, I think, without any doubt, and master of that synth-edit environment. And yeah, which is also where the Genesis Pro, if we're talking about the right product, is where that was birthed. So I don't know. Let me know if you think that's any good. Maybe it's something I should go and check out again. Hi, Mr. Random. Why did Behringer get a mention? What happened further up? Did somebody say anything about that? I know, I missed it. I have to ask the question again. Oh, carp. What? Any news about a virtual super booth? Yeah, lots of news. Curious as to why you're so adverse to using samplers to manipulate the stuff you make with the modular. How do you compile it into a track? I don't know. How do you compile it into a track? That's one of those questions. Why would you want to compile it into a track? I don't know. I think there's many approaches to modular. Sampling and taking loops off a modular is certainly one of them. It's not something I just can't be bothered. You know, I get it. You know, take samples, take loops, use those, arrange them, create a track, add some vocals, bish bash bosh. You're a pop star. I get it. I get it, but it's not something that's interesting me particularly at the moment. It may well interest me in the future, or any moment it might suddenly happen. It's just not interesting. I do have a sample slicer module kit which I need to build. Have been meaning to build for about 18 months, and it's in my pile of modules to build, and that will potentially bring some sampling into my modular. But it's a workflow that has not ever been my workflow. I've never really used samplers. I mean, I used hardware samplers as a sound source back in the 90s, I suppose. And there, yeah, I've been more interested in the library than the actual sampling, if you know what I mean. So I've enjoyed sample-based sounds very much in romplers and other large synthesizers, things like that, but it's not been something which is entered into my own workflow. I like working with virtual instruments. I like working with actual instruments. I like working with sequencers and stuff. The idea to actually sample them and chop them up for some reason has never really been an appeal, except for in about 1985, I think it was, when I got the Commodore sampler for Christmas. And that was awesome because I think it was 1.6 seconds of sampling time. You could split that into 4 slices and of 0.4 seconds each. Does that make that right? Yeah, I think so. So you could put together a very simple drum kit. Or in what I did, I sampled things like I sampled the start of the big chord on the front of the It Bites Calling All the Heroes song. Do you know what that is? So I sampled that. I sampled some Fairlight work off the Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Two Tribes, 12-inch I think it was. I sampled Mel and Kim. What else did I sample? I made a kick drum by hitting the microphone. Things like that. You know, quality stuff. So yeah, that was my sampling experience. It was way back then. Which was fun times. You can find some of this music if you search long and hard enough on SoundCloud under the name Crumble, which is my old very old musical name, which I still like. I should use that again. You may find songs that I wrote back in the 80s, because I put a whole load up online for no reason at some point a few years ago. Funny noises outside. Anyway, so yes, I understand that people use samplers and use them very well and like to cut up loops and stuff like that. It's just not my bag, man. So when I make something on modular like this, like we've got going at the moment, where's it gone? It's going to disappear. It will disappear in a couple of days when I start working on something else on the modular, and it will be gone. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to make it into a track. I might do. I could do. But then, see, because that brings up all sorts of things. It means I'm going to have to connect things up properly. And then I'll be thinking, well, I really want to take individual tracks out, individual lines of stuff out. And then I've got to route that through something and then ADAT that out to something and then start recording that in. And do I play with it when I do it, or do I just record it straight and then play with it? Do I keep the effects on or put the effects on afterwards? And then it just turns into this thing which sucks the creativity out of me. It just makes it into a slog, and that's not really what I want. I mean, I think when I come to the point of wanting to create another album just for shits and giggles, then I'll attempt to sit down for a week and make that happen, if you know what I mean. Patch something, create something, record it as a live performance, and then take it all apart and do something else. I think that appeals to me much more. Just a matter of finding that time and that space in order to do that. So yeah. I mean, that's my vibe. Other people have other vibes. That's fine. I buy the records of other people who actually make the music, and that's good. Otherwise, the best you'll get out of me every now and again is the odd live performance. Which is cool. I like to do that. Anyway, what was I talking about? Somebody said something about something, and then I went off on one. Let's have a look. Any news about a virtual super booth? Oh yeah, that was another question. Virtual super booths. Yes, there are many. Seem to be many. The feeling is that when super booth could not be, a number of people were saying, "Oh well, we should do something." I mean, I'm very much into the idea of saying to super booth, "Hey, look, you know, we're a whole bunch of idiot YouTubers that can't now go to super booth. Why don't we put on a load of stuff at the same time? Wouldn't that be great? We could all get on board and we could produce content for you. You know, all those manufacturers that you had come in, get them to send us out some gear and we'll all make videos and it will be awesome." So that was my thoughts on it. But I think a lot of other people had their own thoughts on doing their own thing around a similar sort of time. I think to have a little bit more ownership over it, you know, which is all right. I wasn't really thinking big enough. I was just sort of thinking, wouldn't it be nice to help out Super Booth sort of thing? But from that, I think a number of people are putting things together in that sort of vein. I think there was just, it gets all a bit political if you're not careful over who owns what, on whose channel is it, and who's getting the views, I suppose, you know. And I guess that's all fair enough because we're all ultimately competing for eyeballs and wanting to spend, and you know, we only have limited resources and limited time, and we need to spend that time and those resources on our own content, on our own channel. I get that. I do get that. So around Super Booth, we should have a whole load of stuff from Sonic State. They put this thing together called Q Sonic. You might have seen that knocking around, and it is very much the idea, because they have the greatest reach, of course, because they know everybody already, and they will be, or are, contacting a bunch of manufacturers to find out what it was they were going to release or show at Super Booth and try to do videos on that, either interviews or demos or whatever. And talking to Nick at Sonic State, he's keen, reasonably keen, to have contributions from other people like myself and other YouTubers and other media sites to get in on that action. It's interesting actually, because since the Behringer debacle, all of us news sites and news people have actually sort of refound friendships. Against a common enemy, that's not right, because nobody's actually seeing Behringer as the enemy. It was just for a moment there last month. I mean, in that whole other world that we had like four weeks ago, there was a situation that we felt as a group of people, we felt very threatened. As journalists, if you like, as news people, as people who do reviews of equipment and gear, we felt very threatened by what Behringer had done and their attitude towards that whole thing. I don't want to go over it again, but essentially the result of that was that we felt threatened, and that actually made us reach out to one another. And so we've got together on Facebook and other groups and talked about it, and and that's been enormously positive. I mean, I've met Nick a few times at various shows, and we've had a beer and chatted and stuff, but it's been really good talking at length about these sorts of issues with him and with people from Music Tech and people from Synthtopia and Future Music, I think, Electronic Sound. Pretty much everybody has somebody in the mix, and that's been brilliant. And I hope that continues, and I hope that positivity continues, because we're often seen as rivals, and there's definitely a sense that, I need to get this article out before Sonic State publishes something, so I get, there's always going to be that going on. But it's good to be reminded that that's not personal, it's just the nature of the business, and actually we're all in this together, and we all share stories, and we all nick from each other. When somebody else gets an exclusive first, then everybody else piggybacks off that. So that's been an enormously positive thing that's come out of that whole debacle, and that's great. And now, because of the virus, we've been able to stay in touch and been able to talk about the shows that have not gone on and what we can do about that and how we can help and how we can contribute, and that's been brilliant. So Super Booth, which will be the end of April, was supposed to be the end of April, there should be, I imagine, a whole load of content from Sonic State, a whole load of content from Amazona, I think it is, an American site, I believe Heinbach's got a load of stuff coming up. Bo Beats has got a lot of stuff coming as well. So those are the ones that I'm aware of, which are going to put on a load of stuff. Moog, I think, as well, aren't they? Haven't they got something? They've got their own Moog Fest-esque virtual thing coming up. So an awful lot of stuff. And it's going to take time to put it together, which is why the timing of it is actually quite good, looking towards the end of April, to put something awesome together. I think that could be enormously important because, I mean, at the moment, a lot of the industry is suffering. Well, there's a couple of sides that are suffering. The performers are suffering because all their gigs have been cancelled. And so although they may have lots of time on their hands, they're not making any money. They're not selling tickets to shows. And so they need a platform to get themselves out there. And so hopefully this will be something towards that. Similarly with manufacturers, they're not out there showing their stuff, and they need third parties. I believe third party reviews of somebody's stuff is always preferable to just a promo by the company themselves. And so hopefully there'll be a lot of that coming on, interviews and talks and chats, and I think that will be great, and it gives everyone an opportunity to see this new stuff that's coming up, and to also remind us that although we're feeling very insular and very protective at the moment, and so we're saving our hard-earned money because we might not be earning any money soon, who knows, we need to be reminded that actually the way that everything works, the way our industry works and the community works, is to keep on moving the money around, to make stuff, to buy stuff, to produce music, to buy music. You know, if you're selling a CD, if you're selling a record, then buy somebody else's record. If you're selling a module, buy another module. You know, it needs to keep going. We need to be helping each other, I think. So yeah, virtual super booths, certainly. I think we'll hear more and more about it over the next 3-4 weeks until it happens, until that time, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, I hope to be involved. I don't know in what fashion or way at the moment, but I hope to have something to do with it. I hope I'm useful. Gravity Mike says, what do I consider to be my most useful module? That changes week by week. This week it's the Quad Quantizer by Tenderfoot, because I've got all of my melodies. It just sends you up to space, doesn't it? It's just brilliant. He says about his own patch. But all my melodies have been run by that. It's fantastic. It's a massive missing piece of my modular journey, I think. Melodic wise, I mean, it kind of at the moment it's pushing me into melody the whole time, which is interesting and fine, but not necessarily where I want to be forever. But at the moment, being able to have everything roughly in tune, but making musical notes. I mean, I know that Eurorack shouldn't be about notes. It should be microtonal. It should be free. It should be, you know, whatever it wants to be. And that's cool. I can do that. But also, I like melody. I like notes that are supposed to be not notes that are supposed to be, but notes that sound nice together. You know, I have simple needs as a musician. I just want my guitar to be in tune and my notes to be similar, you know. So has to be there all the time at the moment. Yeah, that's definitely the most useful thing to me at this particular time. But there's lots of things. I mean, I'm loving the Instruo filter. I bought that by accident. Didn't mean to buy it. And it just dropped into that basket, and it's lovely. It's different to the Jove, very different. I mean, I'm almost in a position where I could do like a video on filters and how they're different. I mean, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? So that's very, very. So those are cool things. Yeah, it changes. I'm also playing a lot with the Ratchet, which Stockkey Modular have sent me to review, and I'm enjoying playing with that tremendously. I am. So yeah, Everything's useful. There's stuff which isn't being used, which is, I mean, in some ways that's more interesting. I mean, I'm not using the black VCO very much from Erica Synths. I'm not entirely sure why that is. It's something I seem to think it always seems to be too low. I don't know. I got the wavetable VCO in here as well, which I'm also not using very much. I'm not using the random rhythm. I'm suddenly no longer using my mutes now that I've got the Slider Man and the Tex-Mix mixer down here. I'm no longer using the DivKid mutes or the Muton, both of which were completely vital when I bought them, absolutely vital. But now I'm using a mixer to do a similar thing. But I'll probably, certainly in performance, be bringing those back in some fashion. Yeah. Using the black stereo delay from Erica Synths an awful lot. Using that on everything at the moment. That's fabulous. Really, it's the best delay I've had. And I've got a Magneto and an Eventide. No, the Erica Synths stereo delay, best one. I'll be doing a review of that soon. Morphogenie, interesting. See, that would be an interesting thing. Yeah, I see that. See. Andrew, you're buying a new mixer. How exciting. At the end of the stream. Wow, well, can we talk you into buying something really wrong? I mean, how many channels do you need? 24, do you say? Oh, you want to get 48, mate. Yeah, no one does 24 channels anymore. 48, or you're only half a man. Yes, 48 needs to be, 8-bus desk, going into tape. It's the only way. It's the only way. Sometimes modular is like not seeing the forest through the trees. So many details. There is a bigger musical picture here. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. But also, the trees are good by themselves. You don't necessarily have to appreciate the bigger picture to enjoy working on the detail. That's why, I mean, going back to my early inspirations for modular, it was one of those modular on the roof demos, and he had two things going on. He had this one guy had a small case. He had what is the oscillator? It's kind of I can't remember what it is, but it was quite a chunky one, quite a big thing, which had a sequencer and stuff. Anyway, all that was happening was a sequence. It was just a single sequence and this synth voice, and that's all that happened. And it was beautiful. And I thought that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So and that would have been just a tree. There was no forest to that. There was nothing more than that, and it's extraordinary. So no, I'm into trees as well as the forest. In fact, I'll be surprised if I ever see the forest. I'm too busy climbing a particular tree, I would say. Magic mushrooms? Maybe. How are the guinea pigs? Good question. They have gone nuts. They are weird. I mean, they don't do nothing, right? They sit around all day. What we call splodging. They just sort of go because we probably overfeed them. So they just like splat themselves about the little legs sticking out the side. But they've got this habit of turning over one of their hay trays. We've got 3 hay trays, which are just Tupperware boxes that we stick hay in. And they like to get in them. And then they eat hay and they poo and they eat their own poo. And they just sort of sleep in their own shit. Which is great. That's what guinea pigs do. But they've taken to turning over the middle one. I mean, there's 4 guinea pigs and 3 trays. We just wanted to create a little bit of tension in their lives. And the middle one just keeps getting turned over. And we've never seen them do it. It just, you turn your back and then boom, it's over. And you go around, it's like... And one of them is sitting in it upside down. So I don't know what they're trying to tell us. They're obviously trying to tell us something. But what the heck that is, I don't know. I mean, if they could talk, they'd probably say, look, we're trying to tell you something. But we just keep putting it back. They must think we're nuts. My disting, the thing I use the most? Yeah, no, I don't know if I'll be a guru anytime soon. But thank you. I appreciate the idea. What's fun enough to make you switch to an iPhone? I don't know what that means. Hi, Paul from Chicago. Good to see you. Any chance of me doing a Waldorf Kira review? Yeah, I think you overestimate my what's the word? My influence. I mean, I can only do reviews of synthesizers of that nature if someone sends me one. I can't afford to buy them. You know, I could buy little synths, you know, like I bought an MS-101 and, you know, I buy bits and pieces of this gradually over time. But, you know, I benefit from people sending me stuff. So if Waldorf were going to send me a Kira, I'd give that a go. Certainly give that a go. But, you know, I'm not going to be able to buy one anytime soon, I'm afraid. So, I mean, maybe if you have one out there you want to send me, loan me. I don't have to be given stuff to keep, if you know what I mean. I mean, I write for Sound on Sound magazine. You never get to keep any of that stuff, you know. Well, that's not entirely true. Mostly you don't. Sometimes they just don't ask for things back. But usually they send you something and you've got a week and you've got to go, oh, right, got a week, and then you've got to send it back. So I'm completely happy with that. That's natural to me. I know, you know, other YouTubers insist that they must have everything for free. That's not my vibe. I don't believe I'm important enough to demand that kind of thing, and there's no need for it. I mean, a lot of it will just sit on the shelf not doing anything. So but for as far as Sound on Sound goes, I get paid to write that article, and so, you know, that's the payment. The gear is not the payment, and that makes us far more independent and more what's the word, honest, truthful, things like that. Yeah. So whereas if you're sent something to keep and then you do a review of it, there's always an element of thankfulness and gratefulness. And of course you want to, you know, you want other people to send you stuff, so you don't want to you don't want to call everything rubbish. But if I've bought it myself, then I can say what the heck I like about it. Which reminds me, here's something I bought myself. It's called the Nifty Bundle. It is. I don't know if there's a story behind this or something, but it's from Create Audio, a new company. They put together this, which is a Eurorack case plus a couple of modules that's really looks fantastic. It's really good value, and I you know, slated to do a review for Sound on Sound, but they've consistently failed to send us one. They haven't sent one in, even though they've said, we'll send you one in. Great. And then they haven't, and they haven't, and they haven't, and they haven't. So I think, sod it. I'll just buy one. I mean, it's not desperately expensive, and it could actually be useful for my overflowing cases. It could be useful for live performance, or if it's not useful, I can sell it on. You know, I'm happy to do that. I think it's interesting enough for me to get hold of one. So that's the plan. And, you know, besides, I can make my money back by writing the review for Sound on Sound now. And also because I bought it rather than being sent it, I feel I can make videos on it and do whatever I like. Whereas, because my philosophy, if you like, is that if Sound on Sound have sent me something to review as a job, then I don't really have the right to make videos and put them up on my own channel about it. In the same way, if you understand me. I might do a demo of it like I have done with the Korg NTS1 or with that laptop thing that I had, the Zen laptop. So, you know, I work that out, if you know what I mean, rather than if somebody's paying me to do a review, I don't feel my own YouTube channel should also get a review, because that's not what I'm being paid for. Does that make sense? Anyway, but if I've bought it, I can do what the heck I like. So why don't we open this up and have a look? Would that be interesting? You've probably already got one out there, but I don't. I haven't. So let's do that. And I haven't opened it. I've had it for a couple of weeks. I bought it just before this whole virus thing kicked off. So let's have a look. Let's have a look. I mean, I have seen one. I saw the original prototype in the flesh at Synthfest last, whenever it was. Whenever was that? Try not to bash the microphone. Oh, too late for that. Oh. Okay, so what you get? You get some cables. Cool. That's all right. Got some patch cables. Cool, that's good, that's good. You got a usual selection of international power supplies. And a wall wart. Cool. Yeah, right. And then, ooh, an Allen key. I bet that's important. Don't ever put me on one of those unboxing channels. Okay, here we go. This is the thing. Let me get the plastic off. Doesn't smell of anything. So, this is it. So create audio. It says on the back, you get this. This is the case. You get 2 modules. This is the bundle. You can buy the case by itself, absolutely. But this is the bundle. It's about, I think, 269, 249. I think I paid 269, something like that. And with it, you get 2 modules, the cells and the chips here, both by Twisted Electrons, I believe. This is kind of a sequencer player type thing. You play things or you can sequence things with it. And this is a bit of an 8-bit kind of chip tune oscillator. Interesting. Both of these things are interesting in of themselves. Then you've got these massive blank panels here in which you can put your own modules. Fantastic. So room enough for 1 or 2 things, I suppose. Or these couple of spare bits I've got knocking about. But what's nice, I believe, what's worth talking about on this case is the fact that it's a self-contained unit. It has a power supply inside that's not using up a power strip module. So that's built in. It's also got a little patch bay here for a few things. So CV gate twice. CV gate, which I don't quite know how that works. Modulation and clock. So that's interesting. Suddenly my mind's going, how do you actually use that and what does it actually go to? I do not know. I do not know. You've got outputs over there, and then on the back, oh, nearly knocked my beer over, you have MIDI in and out. Well, no, MIDI in and through, an audio output, power and USB. So you can use it purely as a MIDI to CV converter. That's something, isn't it? The ends are nicely wooden. It feels pretty good. Blank panels, not so much. Yeah. Doesn't rattle too hard. It's got Sorbophane feet. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, what a great starter pack. You've got something that makes sound and something to play the sound with, and you've got an audio output. So you don't need to buy an output module. Don't need to buy a VCA immediately, necessarily. You've got stuff going on straight away, and then you can buy a couple of modules and add to it, and you've got a system. I mean, it would sit brilliantly with your, what if you've got a Neutron, presumably, or a Mother 32, or some other semi-modular synth. It's a perfect way to expand upon that. Great, isn't it? Great. That feels really nice. So I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into that, to seeing exactly how useful it is, what it sounds like, what the modules can do, and you'll see my review hopefully in Sound on Sound in a couple of months' time. And as I say, because I bought this, I'll do videos on it. What sort of videos? I don't know, probably just only needs the one video, I think, to start with, but then it might be a thing. I might keep it and it might continue to be a thing. Don't know. We'll find out. That's what's exciting about it. I get excited about these things. Very much I do. I'm going to have to buy some more Knurlies. I am so out of Knurlies. God darn it, it's like a utility. So yeah, it's the kind of starter case that we've kind of been waiting for, I think, for a long time. I think it's brilliant. I imagine Behringer and their case is going to do something similar, probably for less. Possibly. We'll see, but it might be, I mean, we know that the larger case, the Eurorack Go, is much, much bigger. It's like 200 HP or something. So that might be a lot for someone who's just wanting to dabble into something. And certainly there's no explanation as to how any of the Behringer modular stuff actually works, which is going to be the biggest barrier to entry, I think. They may be cheap, but how the heck do you make it work? Don't know. Whereas the thing which I think is absolutely fundamentally vital about this is the fact that it has these simple things like an audio output and a MIDI input. Oh, maybe the MIDI input's wired to this. That's what that probably is, thinking about it. Yeah. But you can plug a keyboard in and play it like a normal synth, you know, so you've got familiarity, you know what I mean, built in if you're a newcomer to modular. It'll bridge the gap. Maybe I'm giving too much away and I haven't even tried it out yet. So there we go. So you can expect a video on that coming in the next couple of weeks. The other thing I've got to concentrate on is it's reaching over here, is this thing. Ooh. This thing here, the Sensel Morph. Squidgy MIDI controller thing. Yes, so I have this in for review. And it's not necessarily this particular thing that I'm interested in. What interests me, because this has been out a little while and people have already talked about it, is this, which is a blank. What's it for? Well, you create and print your own layout, put that underneath, and it becomes a completely customizable controller for whatever you want. And that's what interests me. I think that could be very interesting. Rather than, you know, oh, you know, it's got a bunch of stuff in it for a particular piece of software. You can create your own. That's interesting. So I hope to have a go at that this coming week. So what have I got lined up this week? I've got a day of Deckard's Dream, got my normal day job, got kids, I've got, you know, virus to fight off with me sticks, Sensel Morph and the Nifty case, all to get done by Wednesday. Or something. You know, that's just how it's going at the minute, I think. That's how it's going. So, oh, anyway, I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that. Does it have a UK bit? It does, it does. UK bit into there. Is that how that works? Is it going to go upside down? Oh no, that's not it. Oh, rats. No, that doesn't work. How does this work? Like that? No, like that. I don't want it to go that way around because that means it sticks up like a stupid thing. But that seems to be it. That's the way it works. Sticks up like a stupid thing. Great. Great, thanks for that. Okay, good. Moving on. How are we doing? We're an hour in. We're up to 140 people. That's got to be a record, isn't it? You're so welcome. I'm sorry it's just me droning on. That's just kind of what I do. Cables. Cables, put this back over there as well. I'll have a sip and I'll see what you're all saying. We could have a musical interlude if you like. Yeah, do a video on different filters. Yeah. Now, many, many years ago, when I was first conceiving all this lot, I did a superb video, first of all, on oscillators. Did it on the STO, Discovering Oscillators, I called it. I thought, oh, this is brilliant. I'm going to do a whole range of these. I then managed to scrape my way to discovering envelopes. That was pretty good too. Because within that video, I actually, for the first time, understood what an envelope was. And from there, I'd planned to do everything else, you know, understanding filters, understanding VCAs, all that sort of thing. It's just that I don't know that I ever really did. And doing the filters was hard because I needed to have a good example of each filter, and I didn't. You know, I had a Polyvox filter, which I didn't understand, and a Joe filter, which was just lovely, but I didn't understand why. So it's the sort of thing that becomes, I'm going to have to sit down and learn it and understand the differences and hopefully be able to demonstrate the differences. Because we talk about ladder filters, we talk about Steiner, Parker filters, we talk about Roland filters, Korg filters, this kind of thing, MS-20 filters. Do I really know what the difference between those things are? No. No, I don't know that I do. Well, I don't at the moment, just like that. I'm sure people do, but I don't. And so, in order to be able to explain that, which I would very much like to do, I think it would make a good video, is I have to have a block of time where I can find out and discover it and learn about it, and perhaps even source the odd extra filter while I'm at it. I mean, that's probably a good trip to the Dofer shop where I could pick up a wasp filter and a ladder filter and the other bits and pieces that they do, and then compare them all. I think that would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I got no clue why this one sounds so creamy and watery. It's just watery, man. Oh, just lovely. Whereas this one sounds different. Or is it? There it is. In the Instruo filter, there's something smoother. There's very little in the way of stepping going on. It just seems to just opens and then closes. Whereas the Jove filter, the Roland filter, just seems to pepper it with these musical bits that go on. It's fascinating. So yeah, I'd very much like to do a video on filters because I would like to understand. I'd like to understand filters properly, and that'd be good. I mean, one knows filters, but one doesn't really know filters. Do you know what I mean? No, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, the Erica DSP. I have an Erica DSP. Well, I've got the Pico one there, and I use it for reverb. I did used to use it for a lot more. I used to use it for delays. It was good for delays, but I just like the reverb, and I need a reverb all the time, so I just leave it on reverb. It's a problem with multi-effects, I find, is that you tend to find what it is you want to use, and then the rest of it just seems pointless. Wouldn't I be better off just buying a reverb? Yeah, I think I probably would. But that sounds great. It sits there, fills a small space, and certainly does the job. So I'm happy with that. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I could sell all my unused modules. That's true. Yes, I could. I don't know if anybody's buying them particularly at the moment, so that's a thing. But yes, I could do that. There is a factor in as much as that I feel funny at the moment about selling modules that people have given me, even though may not necessarily be using them, and that's silly. That's only a problem in my mind. I'm sure nobody else really gives a monkeys. But so that means I'm kind of sometimes left with modules that I'm not particularly using, but I don't feel I could also sell on. Maybe I should give them away. Maybe the answer to that is have a bit of a competition and give a few things away. But then I'm kind of advertising the fact that I don't like that particular module, and I don't know, is that nice? I don't know. I know it's nothing. It's nothing personal. God, do you know the anxiety one has to go through in this game? Would the nifty case fit between the feet of a 19-inch desktop rack? I've got a desktop rack down here. Well, it's not a desktop one, obviously. It's a floor-mounted one. Now, I would say that's exactly the right size. I had a tape measure here a minute ago. I would say, in fact, it's almost designed to fit exactly into that space. This is 45 centimeters or 17 inches and 17 3/4 inches. What is? Yeah, I hear you saying. Sorry, I'm measuring it. This is. That's what this is. Sorry, I forgot you couldn't see it. Yeah, yeah. So 17 3/4 inches, if that's helpful. And it does seem to appear to fit. I don't have a space free that I can try to actually get that in. Yeah, no, it does fit between the rack sides of a 19-inch rack, I think. Try not to dent this. Put that back carefully. Good, right, so where were we? Hi, MOCM. Good, wonder what that stands for. No, can't be bothered. I want to experience my congratulations on your work. Oh, you're very welcome. And to promote my YouTube channel, which is not monetized. I have no idea what you're saying, mate, but it sounds exciting. Sounds really exciting. How powerful is the wall wart? Which one? Oh, what are we talking about? The Nifty again? Ugh. Let's have a look then. It says 15 volts, 2,400 milliamps. The video quality is soft and out of focus. Yeah, I mean, I can see it in the preview here. I don't have it full screen in the preview. It is a little. I am using a different camera, and it was just thought I'd try it out. And it is a little bit duller, even though I can move this light around a little bit. Would that? I don't know if that would help. I don't want to fiddle with it too much in case it all just disappears. I mean, I don't think I can do. I mean, it is attempting to focus on my face as best I know. Oh, and it's on automatic focus, as I say. I've pressed that. I don't know. So it's just how this one is, I'm afraid. Maybe it's not going to work. I'll look back at it at another time and I don't know, make a decision on it. Because I mean, I was poised to buy a very posh camera. Very posh camera. I've had my eye on that GH5, I think it is, for a long time, because I desperately need a camera that doesn't stop after 30 minutes for the sort of videos that I make, and they're few and far between, and that is one of them. But also the Canon camera that I've got, which is great, but it's a bit long in the tooth now, and its output is only, if I go output to a capture card, is only 720p, I think. Is that right? It's not 1080p basically, whereas this camcorder does produce 1080p, and that's why I thought I would use it. So I'm having to go through a convoluted sort of desktop capture in order to capture the Canon, and that's annoying the heck out of me. As well as unfortunately the fold out viewer on the Canon is also up the spout. It's all upside down and back to front. Sometimes doesn't work. So yeah, I'd like a new camera, please. However, because of the current situation, it would be silly for me to spend a load of money. I mean, I know I've already said to you about spending money, but you know, buy modules from musicians and merchandise. Buy a T-shirt. Don't have to buy. I don't have to give 1,600 quid to Amazon, particularly at the minute. What was I saying? Yeah. So anyway, so I would have liked to sort it out properly, but I thought I would give this one a go just to see what that's like. But yeah, I can see that it is slightly soft in some way. Don't know. I have to look into that. Anyway, where am I located? I'm located in North Norfolk in England. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So the price of the Nifty bundle, you're all talking about that. I'm just catching up. Is yeah, it's great. It's really good. As you say, a MIDI to CV module would cost as much. A power supply module would cost as much. An input output module would cost as much. So it's a pretty good deal. You know, assuming that Behringer doesn't exist and is not about to release something at half the price, then it's the cheapest, best way in to modular, I think, at this time. I mean, it beats the happy ending kit. I mean, not necessarily in price, but by the time you've got the happy ending kit, the tip-top one, plus the power, well, it comes with the power supply, but then plus the output module, plus the MIDI module, plus the sequencer, plus the chip tune oscillator, you know, you've blown the bank. Blown the bank. Yeah, our lives have become streamed now. We're all in virtual things. We're all playing virtual Scrabble with virtual people, with virtual friends. I mean, I've got two mates at the moment who are trying to play Twilight Imperium online on the tabletop, virtual tabletop simulator, whatever it's called, tabletop simulator. And I'm supposed to be there, but I've got my own thing to do this evening, so they're trying to work that out, and hopefully I'll get to play that later in the week. But because we would meet up, and it's a great time, we'd spend like 6 to 8 hours playing this fantastic, awesome board game, which we now can't do in real life, having to do that online, which could be interesting. Don't know. Fascinating world. I mean, horrible. I mean, I don't know how well you've been sleeping out there, but I've really only started sleeping better again the last couple of days. I had a week last week where it was just awful. Yeah, I was waking up at 5 in the morning. As soon as there's a little bit of light outside, I was waking up, could not get back to sleep. I was then completely immersed in news and updates and reports and stuff that's happening around the world. It's just filling you up with this sense of dread and this sense of anxiety. It's just awful. It's awful. And to think that we're somehow self-aware and going through this thing at this time, it's bizarre. It's really, really strange. I mean, and I know nurses, I know some doctors, and it's hell out there. It really is. And I find it incredible that a couple of weeks ago people were laughing it off. You know. But let's not dwell, because we're here not to dwell on those things. We're here to live our lives and to be excited about completely inconsequential stuff, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's not about the big questions. It's about the tiny little stupid questions. That's what keeps us interested, keeps us alive, keeps us thinking, you know. Have another beer. Yeah. No, my Decker Stream is not the Mark II. I'm not upset about the Mark II. It's nice. It looks great. You know, because the box for the one that I've got is a bit chunky. I'm not entirely sure where it's going to live once it's done. Probably down here in the rack out of the way, which is a shame because it wants to be up. And the desktop one would do that much better. But that would be a very, very different kit-making experience, I think. Hello, Edinburgh. Welcome down. Have you left yet? Are you still with us, Scotland? I don't remember. You know, things get lost in the news. You might have left already. I don't know. But, you know, good luck to you and all that. You know, take it on, man. Yeah. Cool. What's the next DIY build? Asks Wishbone Brewery. Brewery? Nice. Well, you know, if you've got something you want me to try out, I could feature your beer in every live stream. I'm completely open to that. I mean, you know, if somebody wants to send me shirts, I might. Well, no, I'm quite fussy about my shirts, but you know, take a chance. I'll quite happily drink your beer if it's nice, and I'll stick it. Can I? There we go, and it could sit there. You know, advertising space. This is an advertising space that can be bought. What was the question? Oh yeah, what's my next DIY project? Well, as I was saying earlier, once I finish the Deckard's Dream, I might give this Cosmos size Eurorack, overlarge Eurorack format a go. That sounds pretty interesting. It's a Look Mum No Computer stuff that he's been building. I'm going to give that a go. I think that's brilliant. And I do have a couple of modules I haven't built yet. Oh, I also have a little synth. I talked about it in the monthly. Excuse me. And it's by TSSSS, called Start Here. But anyway, it's a little synthesizer, just a little synth based on the Meeblip anode, I think it is, which was pretty cool. They've sent me one to try out, which is great because I think I could make a nice video about it. But I also thought that I might use it as an opportunity to teach my oldest son how to solder, and then maybe he could build it, and I could, be there helping him do that and talking him through it and turning that into a bit of a video. That could be interesting because it is the sort of thing that, a 13-year-old could probably handle. So I might try that this week as well. Might do. I don't know. I've got to do something with the kids. So, yeah, I might give that a bit of a go. So that's going to be another project soon as well. I really enjoy the DIY stuff as much as anything, I have to say. So I'm hoping to keep that kind of stuff, keep that stuff flowing. What's my favourite sequencer to use and why? I love Lattice. Lattice here from Tenderfoot. It's 12 knobs. 12 knobs, that's it. You've got a clock input. You can make it just go through all 12, or you can make it go horizontal. You can make it go the other one. No, that's horizontal, isn't it? That's vertical. You make it go vertical. Or you can... I can't remember what that last one does. But you can obviously put two things in at once to make it move all over the place. But they're just knobs. You just set it to something, particularly if you're running it through a quantizer, which makes that much easier. And it's 12 notes. It's brilliant. It's no fuss, no mess. You're not mucking about. You're not trying to do something clever. You're just putting some notes in. And I've been using it. In fact, at the moment in this patch, remember this patch? In that patch, this bit here, the high stuff, I've got a slow clock going into a lattice. I've got two lattices, lattice over here, and that's adding voltage to the voltage that's coming from the sequencer to it. So I'm using it to change the key of the sequence. See, there it goes. And I can change it. Oh, it's moved on. Hang on. So I set each knob to change it to a different key. Does that make sense? So sometimes it's nice just to run 12 notes into something because 12 notes is just different. It's different to 8 notes. It is. I had an argument about this with somebody when I did a review of it, saying, well, why do you need 12 notes? Why don't you just use 8 notes? All right, I can use 8 notes, but 12 notes, what's brilliant about 12 notes is that it's looping differently. It just is. If you've got everything else going, dum, dum, a steady beat going on, fall to the floor or whatever, you've got 12 notes going on. It's repeating every bar and a half as opposed to every bar or every 4 bars, depending on how fast your thing's going. It's repeating at half the time. And that just makes it go different. It just makes it go and feel different. And that's interesting. That's interesting. So yeah, I like that a lot. I like its solidness. I like its tactileness, the fact that it's knobs, there's no pages, there's no buttons. It's not like, I like the Varigate 4 Plus, don't get me wrong. I use it a lot and it has a lot of features, but I'm always got the wrong button pressed, and that sometimes and often always annoys me. What other sequencers do I have? I've got the big generator sequencer, which I haven't used anywhere near as much as I should. I should get that out and try that out again. But otherwise, I've got the Turing machine, which is good. I enjoy using that when I can't be bothered to think of anything myself. Got the Bloom that I really haven't spent enough time with yet to understand what that's doing. And I've got the Varigate. But the lattices are the things that really seem to work for me. But more combination of things now. Starting to use a combination of things. How much? How much what? You've owned Twilight Imperium 4 for a year. Still not gotten to play it? You've got to play it, man. You've got to play it. It's the best. It's the best board game. You have to have at least 3 people. You have to. I mean, I've been playing with 3 people for a couple of years now. We try to play once a month, if not once every 2 months, something like that. I think we might have played 12, 13 times over the last couple of years. I think that's about right. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But you've got to have a couple of other people who are into it. You know, you've got to give it the time. Your first playthrough will take 10 hours. And you've got to be prepared for that. But it's an extraordinary game. It really is. There's nothing quite like it. There's just something in the balance of stuff. Doesn't matter what faction you play. It's fascinating. Totally fascinating. So yeah, play it. The SV1 from Pittsburgh Modular, you can buy the black box version, which stands alone on the desktop, or you can buy it as a module, which drops into your Euro rack. So, where are we? So, well, it's 10:30. I think... do I have any samplers? Well, there's an echo in here, isn't there? So I think I might have got to the bottom again. I'll just have a quick zoom up in case I've missed anything. Oh, do I have a Hakko soldering iron yet? Yes, I do. Do you mean the blue one with the like the shed? You got a shed with a number on the front and the thing separately. Is that the one? Yeah, I do. I bought one because I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to be soldering this Deckard's Dream. I didn't buy it because I thought I've got to have a posh soldering iron. I thought because I'm going to do an awful lot of soldering on something which is quite intense. I probably better buy something that's not going to break and is going to work the whole time. So yeah, I got a Hakko one, and it's really great because it heats up really fast and it stays the right temperature and the solder melts. I mean, that's my criteria really. Does it melt the solder? And it does. And and it doesn't just melt the solder on itself. It actually heats up the pad enough so that melts the solder. I mean, I know, fantastic. But my previous soldering iron sometimes would, sometimes wouldn't. So, it's a massive improvement on that. But I'm a complete believer that you do not need to have a posh soldering iron to do it. No, not at all. But, sod it, I got one. I did. Kill me. Do do boo boo boo. You got a bonus at work and you're looking to buy a Crave. It wasn't really that much of a bonus then, was it? But, that's cool. That's great. It's a great little synth. Hello, Teddington. I'm just going back through the comments now. Thanks. I'm glad you find it interesting. I don't understand really this whole live stream business. I mean, it's immensely fun for me, and I'm fascinated by the fact that people stay and watch. It's an awesome, lovely thing that you do. And you're more than welcome to get in touch with me to say, your live stream, right? Why don't you do this or why don't you do that? Because I'm open to ideas. Otherwise, I'm just talking to fill the void. I'm quite happy to do other things. I mean, I've been looking at the whole Facebook live streaming recently. Did you see my video on the iRig stream, which I'm treading on down here on the floor? Yeah. This fella. It's upside down. The reason I got hold of this was to improve my Instagram videos, which I did one of those earlier with this, plugged it in, sounded flipping brilliant. So that's completely sorted, success, absolutely fabulous. But I can also use this for quick Facebook live streams as well, to do them at a much higher quality of audio than I do, because I do a Facebook live stream either on my phone or on my laptop, rather than all this rig I've got set up here to go through vMix into YouTube, blah blah blah. For quick Facebook streaming, this sort of thing is brilliant. So I hope to do a bit more of that. So yeah, if you'd like to see me do stuff, then tell me. I mean, it was interesting. I did a lot of sort of test live streams on Facebook while I was testing this out, because I've had to do a review of it. And for reviews, the weird thing that I do is I actually use stuff. You know, I test stuff out, like use it and that. Don't just write about the press release. So I know it might be hard to understand, but you know, I had to actually get in and use it. And it was interesting how I would start up a random live stream, just testing something out, blah, 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 and I always got far more viewers if it was me on camera than if I was just fiddling with some music and there was a picture of the modular. That was very interesting, which makes me think that, because I mean, on my, I don't know about your Facebook stream, but mine is full of people playing their bits of music, you know, which is cool. That's nice. But I think we tend to just swipe on through often. We swipe, unless it's something that particularly is interesting to us, or by a person who particularly interests us, we swipe our way through. And that's what I found, that when I spent, you know, I did it like a 10-minute live stream just playing some music, no one cared. No one cared. But if it was me, like this, in this style, going, oh, hey, hello, I'm just here, just doing a test. Look, oh, I'm making a bit of noise. I suddenly got a dozen people popping up going, hey, look, it's Robin. Hey, poking and giving me a wave. So that's interesting. It's interesting how we are, as a people, more interested in people, perhaps, than we are, perhaps, in the music. Maybe there's a way of combining those two things. Don't know. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I'm always open to ideas, offers, you know, whatever you fancy. Let me know, and I'll talk about it, or I'll demonstrate it, or I'll find out something about it, or I'll just tell you, nah, you know, whatever, open to things. Okay, got through that bit. Ba, 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 ba. Skulldrazer, well done. Dropping in right at the end. Good stuff. Yeah, I do. Most musicians don't build their instruments. I think that's a recent phenomenon, though. I think back in times previous, you would be an instrument maker as well as a player. I think, wouldn't you? I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, that's why modular is so postmodern, ultimately, because it's doing all of those things. You know, it's not being one thing. You're not a performer on stage being handed a guitar by a guitar tech. No, you've built the bloody thing yourself. You've wired it together, and you've just stopped it catching fire, and you've rerouted, you know, the nacelles from one thing to another, and you've recircuited it from something else and stolen power from one end to boost the shields on another, and you've done all that on the fly during your performance. You know, we're extraordinary modular performers. We really are amazing. You know, you might have a blowout of a of a capacitor halfway through a set, and you've just wound up a whole bunch of coils, stuck it in a piece of copper, put a couple of plates side by side, and jimmied that in the back in order to save your set. You know, that's what it's all about. Whoops. Vova Doob, hi. I saw your all videos about making PCs and music production. Can you tell me in a few words about AMD CPUs? Have you tested them? Yes. Now, I had a very deep and interesting, meaningful relationship with AMD many years ago, and they were great. They were knocking around. They were interested. They had a bunch of processors. They did 64-bit things before most other people did 64-bit things. Multi-cores, things like that. Great. The thing is that they they were there, then they weren't. They were there, then they weren't. They were fast, then they weren't. Then they were really good, then they weren't. It's kind of like the difficulty is if you're trying to produce a repeatable system that's consistent, that is going to work every time. That when each generation comes along, you're not having to scratch your head going, we don't even know if it's going to work. You can't really be doing with that. So that has been my experience with AMD over the years, is that it's awesome, and then it's not. And if you pick an AMD system when it's awesome, then that's great, and you'll get a lot of good processing power out of it, and it'll be quick, and it'll be cheap, and cool. Yeah, go for that. And then it'll be crap for a while. But that doesn't matter if you've bought it at the peak time. That's great. Stay with that. But then it goes a bit crap, and if you've only got limited brain cycles left, you don't want to spend your whole time having to retest whether a processor motherboard combination is going to keep on working every time. You just don't have who has the time for that? Whereas Intel, bish bash bosh, it works every time. Not having to worry about it. I mean, they're not to say that Intel has been a smooth road the whole time. No, of course not. There's always issues with new motherboards when you're right at the bleeding edge of something. But on the whole, it all just comes together and it works, and it's similar to how it worked last time, if not identical, and it's measurable, all of that, and consistent. And that's why I always stuck with Intel, because it just made my life easier. My life as a supplier of computers, it made my life easier, tech support easier, and I was always assured of supplying a product that I knew was going to be top notch and was going to work, and all those things are important. Now, if you're a hair on fire kind of hacker, build my own system kind of person, then do what the heck you like. Use AMD, sure, yeah, you'll get more cycles for your money. Probably, if you get it to work, it'll be awesome, but that's just not that interesting to me, if you see what I'm saying. I mean, the other major factor was the physicality of the actual CPUs, because I have done AMD systems and have sold them. The problem was that that half of them would reach the customer, because I'm supplying, I'm not just building for myself, I'm supplying, and that's a massive difference. I'm supplying an AMD system to somebody, they get it, they take it out of the box, and half of the people who got them would plug it in and it wouldn't work. It would be nuts. It's totally nuts. So why would it? I mean, a fully tested system, fully installed system, and have all their software on it, all ready to go out of the box. The Intel system would ship out, they'd turn it on, plug it in, they're off, and they're going. AMD would get there half the time, third of the time, often enough, it just would not turn on. And the reason would be, well, you'd have to get the system back, of course, it would cost you an arm and a leg, have to get it back, open her up, and you would find that the processor itself, processor is like this, pins coming off it, goes into a socket. The processor had been pulled out of the socket by physics, I suppose. Forces applied to the system in transit somehow flexed the board enough that it would physically pull the CPU out of the socket. And so you would have to then put it back in, tighten it up. It was already tight, it was already put in, it already had a big cooler on it, and you would send it out again and hope that this time it would get there okay. And after things had gone backwards and forwards a couple of times, you'd soon drop a product like that, because you just can't reliably deliver it. They just can't be doing with it. Whereas Intel, no pins. The pins are on the socket here. The CPU is clamped in. It's not just sort of screwed in or dropped in with a little arm. It's clamped in. It's not going anywhere. Turns up every time. So, those are the factors. So what do I know about AMD CPUs? As I say, they're fabulous. Sure, go for it. I don't really have an opinion on them. I stick with Intel because I think they are consistent. They work. They've done me right. And, I don't know. Is that all right? But if you want to go AMD, that's fine. I'm not judging your small-minded, penny-pinching, budget-surfing, broken heart, CPU cycling attitude. Do what you like. Does that answer the question? Probably a bit out of your wheelhouse. Oh, yeah, perfect. That's the perfect start to the question. I'm all over this. Let me have a swig of beer. But interested in your thoughts on an Akai MPC-1. Ta-da! Does drums, does it? Bass, yeah. And has CV and gate out, so you can integrate it into your modular. All for a doorless real-time performance. Yeah. I don't know. I liked MPCs. I always enjoyed booting up the MPC at Turnkey when I worked there. I could while away an hour, forgetting to sell things to people, just making out beats and stuff on the original MPC. That was a lot of fun. I get fun out of using things like the PreSonus Atom controller or launch pads. I've got one of those. All of these things are fun. I don't really know what else to say. I quite like a keyboard myself. I'm not. It's like I've got a machiner somewhere. Oh, it's here. Look at that. Look at that. Sadly, I bricked this very early on. It's probably about a year ago I bricked it by trying to update the firmware, and it failed, and it's bricked. I cannot fix it unless I find an Apple Macintosh I can plug it into, but I don't have an Apple Macintosh, so it's bricked, which is a shame. I need to find someone who owns an Apple Mac and get it plugged in so that they can unbrick it. One day I'll do that. But anyway, yeah, I don't mind that workflow. Workflow's all right, but I also like a keyboard. I find it difficult to play notes on those sorts of things often. But so, yeah, I can see the appeal. Sorry, funny noises. I can see the appeal, but it's not something I'm heavily invested in, that sort of workflow. It doesn't really, no. I don't mind. I'm not, can you see I'm ambivalent about it, I think I could say. But yeah, I mean, it looks great, I'm sure. Why wear hats? Okay. Tidy hair today. Am I really back down here? Where have I been with these comments? I've been up and down all over the place. Thoughts on Reaper? Really? Reaper's all right. I find Reaper overly complex. I would say I don't like the GUIs on the plugins. I find it a bit Windowsy, so old school Windows. It's like running in Windows 3.1 sometimes. The sort of control panels you have, access to things, it just ain't slick. I'm quite used to slickness. If you look at something like Ableton Live or Studio One or Bitwig, it's all very slick. And Reaper doesn't have that, but for the money, it's great, no doubt, and a lot of people find it very, very good. I think it works with a particular sort of workflow and mindset, I think, and that's awesome. So I've got nothing bad to say about it. It doesn't really excite me in any particular way, and every time I use it, which I do, I get quite frustrated because I don't find it intuitive. I find I have to work really hard to understand where everything is and where everything goes and how everything should be. And I don't want to be working that hard, How fast is my PC? It's this fast. Flipping fast. Yeah. Soft tube. Yeah. What does that mean? So Ian, you're running a 400 ATM. What? Amp, and you have a 600 and 400 in the loft ready for if you need them. Wow, now that sounds really exciting. Is that like a render farm? Yeah, soft tube's cool. I think it looks great. It's quite hard work on your computer, as people say. Who's the manufacturer of my log cabin? Well, it's Tunstead Sheds, I think it is. No, it's Scott Sheds. Scott's Sheds. There you go. In Taverham, I think, north of Norwich somewhere. Yeah. Doobie-doo. See, you're trying to stream Cubase and VCV Rack over Discord. I didn't even know you could attempt to do that. Why would you do that? How different is modular software to real hardware? I think it's transcendental is the answer you're looking for there. Synth Anatomy! Tom, hey, he's in the house. Yeah, the new Traction, awesome. They've always done decent versions for free. I mean, it's funny because I reviewed Traction 7 back when it was new, right? I did a big review of Traction 7, which was great, and it got a bit of views and that kind of thing. It was great, and then it kind of went a bit quiet. And then eventually they carried on releasing versions, and then they released version 7 as free, and suddenly, boom, my review went up on YouTube again, and then I got a gazillion more views, which is fascinating. Because one of the problems with Traction, I think, is that it's different, and so it takes a little bit of head scratching to get into it. It takes a little bit of time, and so the review I did is one of my reviews, which means it was at least an hour long and pretty flipping deep. But I took you through how to actually use the software. And so I think people found that enormously helpful. And I would have loved to have done reviews of all the versions since. It's just I have not had the time. Doing a review of a DAW is a major undertaking to do it properly, in my view, my way of doing things properly. And I find it really time-consuming, difficult. I did a review of Waveform, I think, for Sound on Sound, one of the versions. But that's the last time I touched it. But this should be, I believe, Waveform version 8 is the free version, pretty much. And it's great. It's really good. Really good. It's the best free bit of software, best free DAW out there, I think, at the moment. You'd like to see me do a thing on a sequential switch? All right, yeah, I've done that before. I did that earlier on. I've got one here. I can point to it. Switch, there we go. A dope for one. And I got into that at one point because I was trying to solve a problem. As many of my modules come from solving problems, I was trying to change chord. I was working out, how do you do that? How do you go from one chord to another? How do you change key or something? And so I use a sequential switch to every fourth bar or whatever to switch in some more CV in order to change the pitch, to change the chord or whatever it is of whatever it was I was doing. So yeah, I can see that. But I can also see that I can use a sequencer to do a similar thing, and it gives me more options. Maybe. Don't know. A sequential switch is another thing to look into. Yeah, I got my mind thinking again now. Because all of my modular fiddling is usually trying to solve some kind of problem. I want to do this. How do I do this? Oh, I wire that into that. Or I need to buy one of those. That tends to be my thought process. And then once I've done that and got through it, I then tend to forget about it and go and find off something else to do. The funky psychedelic lamp is a Mathmos oil projector. I have two. I picked up off eBay many years ago. They're great. They're just great. They're great. They're not as impressive as you imagine they would be, but they're great nonetheless. Right. Didn't get on with Traction? Yeah, no, I don't think everybody does. Cakewalk by BandLab is probably the best free DAW out there. Maybe. It's one of those things that's on my list of things I'd like to have a look into that. I mean, me and Cakewalk have got a very, very love-hate relationship. It was the first PC sequencer I ever used, and I've used it a lot, but it's not always been great. There's been bits about it that just drive me nuts. Why can't even with the touch implementation would just drive me nuts. Something about, I can't quite remember what it was now, but you can't zoom into the timeline and just silly bits like that. But anyway, the idea of it sounds brilliant. How much of it is brilliant, I'm not entirely sure. but that's something that I'd quite like to have a look at in detail at some point. Again, it's like, you know, I mean, if I got myself, let's say, let's have 1,000 more patrons. Excuse me. If I could pick up 1,000 patrons who would all give me a £5, you know, a month, then I could pack in the day job and do these things full time. Just make videos on stuff. That'd be great. Let's do that. Make videos, make music. Yes, that would be the way. But, you know, we're not going to make it, son. We're not going to make it. I've got a lovely little band of people up on Patreon, which is awesome. But, you know, it's not putting food on the table particularly. It's buying me the odd shirt and giving me enough encouragement to keep on doing this thing. But we're not there yet. But if I had the sort of time that it takes to review doors properly, then I would love to do that. There's a ton, there's a whole open up things really wide on the amount of content I could be doing if I had the time. But sadly, I do not. So I have to pick and choose things that, well, I mean, there's a couple of things going on, I think, in my choice of content. First one, it has to interest me. I mean, that seems like an obvious one, or I have to have been paid to do it. I don't make videos for money. No one ever gives me money to make videos. But if I've been sent something to review for a magazine, that obviously takes my attention. So that's things. So I have to. What am I talking about? My choice of, that's right. So I want to be interested in it. I also got to think that it might make an interesting video, and if it's going to be helpful. You know, I don't want to do a review of something that's already got 1,000 reviews of. That doesn't seem to be any point in that. But if I can do something which is helpful, if I can unravel something, unwrap something which will help more people use it, then yeah, I'm definitely up for that. Or if somebody gets in touch and says, I've got this great thing I'd like you to have a look at, then I'm very, very likely to do a video on it, because that seems like the right transaction. Do you see what I mean? So, you know, lots of reasons for the content that I do, but I just have to choose the things that I think I can fit in the time. It's one of the reasons why Deckard's Dream has taken so long, sadly, because it's just finding the time is difficult to fit that in. But as I say, going to have another go at that tomorrow. Is that Monday? Yes, I'll have a go at that tomorrow, I think. Door is door. All right, we've got to that point, have we? Oh, sod it. It's just all music, isn't it? Yeah, it's just all modules. Just synthesis, isn't it? Yeah, it don't matter. Nothing matters. It's just a door. Don't matter. Yeah. Yeah, then what? It don't matter. We're sitting here. Doesn't even matter talking about nothing. I could have that other beer. Or no, I'll probably better pack it in, because it's getting late. It's getting late. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I really do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. A couple of quid. It's awesome. It's really, really helpful. It is helpful. What? Okay. This will eventually make money. I've been saying that for years. It's a mystery. Flipping YouTube's a mystery. I mean, I watch the stats, right? I look at the stats, and like every month, every 28 days, get another 500 subscribers. And yet the cash bit, the bit that says you're making money, it just doesn't move. It's like the needle stuck. You're tapping on it. Come on, you bastard. Come on. Come on. I must be getting more views. People must be clicking on adverts, surely. And yeah, I mean, views go up, subscribers go up. I mean, I'm nearly at 30,000, which seems extraordinary. Although it's not quite the exponential curve that everyone talks about these days. That's kind of the thing that I need. But it is continuing to grow, and I suppose I'm making a tiny bit more than I was this time last year. But I keep telling myself, oh, it's going to catch on. You know, this time next year, Rodney. Okay. But I don't know. But I mean, on the other hand, it does throw up opportunities. It does. You know, I was invited on a live stream with Richard from Pittsburgh Modular just earlier in the week. Fantastic. That's just amazing that I get to meet this guy who makes such amazing modules and get to chat with him for a couple of hours. Flipping fantastic, that is. I mean, that only occurs because of this, because of what I do here. And that's amazing. I mean, getting to meet people like DivKid and Tom and Other people at Synth Reactor last year, just immeasurable the value of that, of those sorts of contacts and relationships. Even though I have no clue how to harness those and turn those into some kind of money-making opportunity, it's just nice to meet nice people, you know, and hopefully somehow fight my way through my own social awkwardness in order to make that a nice thing. And it continues to be a nice thing. So yeah, I hope to be involved in the virtual super booth at some point. I don't know what factor that will be, but if you're a manufacturer out there who has a new thing that you are hoping to show at Super Booth or would just like to have talked about, then I would love to have it and talk about it. That would be great. That would give me something to contribute, wouldn't it? Otherwise, I'll be making videos on the Nifty bundle. I'll be making videos on this Ratchet module I've got in for review from Stockkey, which is great. Oh, that. Oh, my light's gone out. Oh, can I be bothered to change it? I suppose I can. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, wow, that's hot. So, is this one? This is like the last piece of equipment that doesn't have its own power supply, so I'm constantly charging these great big fat batteries. But it does make it very portable because it's the light that I move about for things. Ugh. So what was I saying? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, meeting nice people and stuff. That's all great. So I feel very blessed that I'm able to do this sort of stuff and that it has opened doors and introduced me to people and has allowed me. I mean, you know, the fact that I've been able to acquire and build this modular is extraordinary. That never would have happened if I carried on just doing videos on the surface and bits of software. This never would have emerged. And this has brought me such pleasure, such immense amount of creativity. It's changed my life. It's changed my life in some ways. I'm not the same person. The DIY stuff. Wow, you know. So, yeah, I feel extraordinarily fortunate to be in the position that I'm in and writing about stuff. I enjoy writing about stuff. That's okay. You know, so don't worry, I'm good and enjoying it and having a lovely time doing all of this and fitting it all in. And I'm very, very appreciative of all the people who come and watch and say hello. That's great. So I think we're going to call this a night. I might do a little bit of noodling just to finish off. But thank you very much for your time, for coming along, spending a little bit of time with me. I hope that's been interesting. I have no idea what it is that we've talked about really, but that's great. You know, in these weird times that we are in, it's great to just to get together and to hang out. You know, that's great. I mean, I've been talking to so many people online. It's like quite exhausted from it. You know, it's like FaceTime after FaceTime after Skype after Zoom with somebody else. It's like I never used to have to speak to all these people. Why am I having to speak to all these people now? No, it's fantastic, really. So yeah, the other thing that's happening, before I forget, is that the Endless app, the Endless Jamming Collaborative app, is being launched, I think, on Tuesday, the 31st of March, and I think I might have something to do with that. I haven't entirely squared that away with Tim yet, but he did get in touch last week saying, "Oh, we've got this thing, and you know, would you like to do a jam in it? Because we like doing it all day, and we've got loads of time to fill." I went, "Yeah, I could probably do that." And of course, then I spent lost a day trying to work out how on earth I'm going to get a camera feed into Skype properly to make that. Anyway, I'll try to work that out. So that might be happening, but once it's released for real, then of course everyone can use it, and maybe we could set up some Molten jams. That might be interesting. I don't know, might not. So that's something that we could do. But so in the week, Tuesday potentially, I might be doing some live streaming with Tim XR and the Endless crew. I might not. I don't know. I mean, you know, he's got Imogen Heap on, so I mean, she's probably gonna want to keep her on the whole day. Why would anyone want to look at me when they could be listening to her make music? I don't know. So Cool. This Tuesday? Yes, I believe so. 31st. That is right, isn't it? Tuesday, yes. And he's like doing it all day. But check out Tim Exiles, or Endless with an extra S on the end, .fm, and that will tell you all about it. That will tell you all about it. So, thanks. Yeah, everyone keep safe out there. Just, stay at home. I know everyone's telling us to do this and it gets really boring, but it's important, I think. I think it's really important. We have to get through it. We have to stay at home. We have to enjoy our children, stay with our kids, stay with our partners, and do our best to love one another and to stay with the people that we're with, and just keep everyone else away. Keep everybody else away. That's all you can do. Stay in until you have to go to the flipping shops, which is scary. And that's the plan. So we might be doing another live stream at some point. Who knows? Certainly, obviously, in a month's time. We'll see where the hell we are in a month. Can you imagine where we're going to be in a month? Whew. Oh, no, I don't want to think about it. So yeah, more live streams may be coming. Who knows? But more videos, certainly, on all sorts of stuff. So stay with us. Endless, yeah, that's what it's called. Endless with 3 S's. The 3-module challenge? No, I wouldn't even know where to start. Cheers, yes, nice. Don't touch your face, yes, all of that. Pink Floyd, what? You don't like... Oh, Frank, honestly, mate, I wore this for you. I thought about it deep and hard, and I thought, now this is a Frank shirt. This one. Ah, disappointed. Oh, Tom, Synth Anatomy is also going to be publishing some stuff for Superbooth 2020, so that's another one in there. Yeah. What? Review some beauty articles. Get more people. Yeah, I could do that. I'd get a ring light, sit right in front of it, and start doing beard tips. Yeah, like I spend any time on my beard. See if you can you get your beard as strange as mine? Make it stick out. Yes, that's awesome. Anyway, stop talking. So yeah, thanks for all of that, and I'm just going to shift myself over here. Oh yeah, patreon.com, Robin Vincent. Yeah. Find me at RobinV00 on Instagram, or moltenmusictechnology.com, all of that kind of jazz. But you'll find me. Any questions? Send them in. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this back on and noodle for a bit, and I'll see you at the other end. Ooh. Good night. More music, less talk. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Sometimes it's just chat.